All right, y'all. We are back, and I just want to preface this video by saying that I'm going over everybody in the documentary, the Netflix documentary, The Reckoning, all of the people who are in there who have a complaint against Sean Combs, Diddy, Puff Daddy, Brother Love, whatever he goes by today. Um, I'm going over each of the complaints just because it's interesting to look at everything in hindsight of what he was actually convicted of and what he got off on, in addition to just pairing it with their testimonies in the documentary. So right now, I'm doing Joi Dickerson-Neal. I am going to leave links to the Kirk Burroughs transcript that I read over, as well as Little Rod. Um, for some reason, I just have an affinity for the Kirk Burroughs situation. I think because it's just so terrible with him being homeless and still working with Janice Combs and with Puffy and documentary finished and together. I mean, he was homeless and he still was able to gather records and everything that they needed in order to get that documentary um, produced. And he didn't even have a bank account. He gave Janice Combs his friend's bank account so that he could get the money. And obviously she never remitted any funds, but yeah, I don't know. I was really moved by Kirk Burroughs. And, because he clearly begrudgingly at the end of the documentary talks about how he was sexually assaulted by Puffy. He clearly doesn't want to talk about that. And that is really the conversation. The conversation is not centered around the fact that he was taken for 25% stake, you know, of Bad Boy Entertainment. The conversation is not talking about how he was taken for 15% of his annual earnings from the period of 1993, I believe, until 1997. The conversation does not talk about how he $100,000 to start the business. The conversation is not about his contributions to artists like Biggie, Mary J, who he was managing, um, Faith Evans, like huge artists for Bad Boy. The conversation is not about that. So I'm hoping that you guys will share the video, like the video, boost it up in the algorithm so that the conversation can change. And his contributions, they can be highlighted instead of the fact that perhaps he had a sexual relationship, willing or unwilling, with Puffy. All right, moving right along. So, um, let me get to this page. Okay, so here we have the complaint with Joi Dickerson-Neal. Let's get it going. It's 22 pages, so hopefully I can just do this one in one sitting because some of the other ones are like 100 pages, 70 pages, so I have had to do them. All right, so here we have Joi Dickerson-Neal, plaintiff against Sean Combs, P. Diddy, Bad Boy Entertainment, doing business as Bad Boy Records, Combs Enterprises. And honestly, it may be for the best that Kirk Burroughs doesn't have a percentage anymore in Bad Boy because Janice Combs, I'm pretty sure, owns 100% at this point of Bad Boy Entertainment, right? At the bequest of her son. So, because Diddy has like a million, so I believe it's now 77 or 80 lawsuits civilly, right, of people who were sexually abused or unpaid wages, things like that. It may just be for the best that Kirk Burroughs no longer has a part of it. But in his lawsuit, he is for his 25% share back, as well as all the back money that he had for the 15% in earnings annually. So, anyway, getting back to Joy. Okay, nature of the actions. Plaintiff brings suit against defendants to redress the substantial and lifetime injuries she has suffered as a result of being drugged, sexually assaulted, and abused, and being the victim of revenge porn that Sean Combs or P. Diddy created and distributed. Plaintiffs complains pursuant to the New York Common Law, New York Services for Victims of Human Trafficking, New York State Civil Rights Law, New York State Revenge Porn Law, NYC Gender Motivated Violence Protection Act, New York City Revenge Porn Law, and seeks to address the injuries she has suffered as a result of being sexually harassed, abused, and a victim of revenge porn. Joy Dickerson was a college student at Syracuse University, pursuing a degree in psychology and filled with hopes for a bright future. See, this is why I like reading the complaints, because you get background, right, on the person. The documentary, there's so much that they had to fit in. You don't get to know who she is as a person. We just meet her in reference to Sean Combs, but we don't know that she was pursuing a psychology degree at Syracuse. So that's very cool to while Miss Dickerson did not come from a family with means, she was raised by a single mother who instilled in her high moral and ethical standards and a strong sense of civic duty. She was whip smart, beautiful, and aware that her good reputation was an important asset to be safeguarded. On January 3rd, 1991, while on school break from the holiday, Miss Dickerson reluctantly agreed to an early dinner with Sean Combs. They had many friends and acquaintances in common, and she had appeared with Combs in a few clips of a music video. After Miss Wells' restaurant in Harlem, home of chicken and waffles since 1938, Combs pushed Miss Wells to keep him company. Miss Wells? Maybe they mean Miss Dickerson-Neal. It couldn't have been Miss Wells. Okay. To keep him company, as he attended to a few things in the city. Getting into Combs' car that day was something Miss Dickerson would come to regret forever. During their date, Combs intentionally Miss Dickerson, resulting in her being in a physical state where she could not independently stand or walk, driving first to a music studio where she could not get out of the car. Combs proceeded to place to a place he was staying to sexually assault her, as was his practice. To Miss Dickerson, Combs' video recorded the sexual assault. Days later, a male friend revealed to her that he had viewed the sex tape along with other men. Horrified, Miss Dickerson asked how many others saw it, to which he responded, everyone. Okay, I have to stop here because I am confused. In the documentary from Netflix, and at this point I've watched it like a million times, but Joi Dickerson-Neal says that she went to one of Puff's called Daddy's house, right? It was at Andre Harrell's house in New Jersey. Andre Harrell was out of town. She was there. She stayed later because a lot of people had trekked mud into the house. She stayed to clean, and subsequently she decided to help clean up the mud because she needed a ride back from New Jersey to Manhattan. And then we skip to the next day where she is in a music video with Puffy, and she says that she has on the same clothes in the music video that she wore to the party the day before. Here, we're being told that they went out on a date. and they went to Wells Restaurant. So in the documentary, it seems like she went with some friends to his house for a party, and it appeared like it's like a group thing, and she kind of just stayed over because she needed a ride back Manhattan from Jersey. In this complaint, it seems like before the sexual assault happened, it says they had many friends and acquaintances in common, and she had appeared with Combs in a few clips of a music video. So there's conflicting information. Um, in this complaint, the music video happens before the sexual assault, and in the documentary, it happens after. I'm gonna keep going, but I'm confused. All right. Miss Dickerson's life went into a tailspin. She returned to college, but soon had to be admitted into the hospital for severe depression and suicide ideation. Unable to function, she dropped out of college. Wow. Miss Dickerson has struggled with her mental health and career progression thereafter. The sexual assault and public exposure of it caused her to suffer overwhelming feelings of humiliation, embarrassment, violation, and constant apprehension about all who viewed it. As Combs' success and wealth rose quickly, she tried to block his existence out, as I guess they meant to put, as she tried to put her life back on track. Still today, Ms. Dickerson continues to work on her emotional health, economic recovery, and finishing her college degree. Still today, 2023. I mean, it's never too late, I guess, to go to college. All right. Seeking accountability from Combs under the law is one more step in that journey. Okay. These are the procedural requirements. I'm going to skip over that. All right, so this is going to be based under the NYC Victims of Gender Motivated Violence Protection Act. All right, so the parties are Sean Combs. At all relevant, Combs was a resident of New York. He was a prominent member of the New York hip hop community. He's known for working as a talent director at Uptown Records from 1990 to 1993. Also known for throwing parties that attracted these, including the who's who of the hip hop world. 1992, he founded Bad Boy Records. 2008, he was the first male rapper to get a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, which he probably paid for. In 2022, Forbes estimated that he was okay. Upon information and belief, Combe has a history of committing physical and sexual violence against women as documented in publicly available lawsuits, aka Cassie at the time, because this was received 11/23/2023, which was right after Cassie. Okay. I want to read this one too. On May 8th, 2017, Combs' personal chef, I remember when this came out, filed a suit in Superior Court alleging that he sexually harassed her. Gina detailed that he abused her. Okay, Gina. I mean, now she's taking it back, but I do believe he abused her. And then, yeah, November 16th. So she filed this on the 23rd. She was just waiting because Cassie filed hers on the 16th. All right. Given the extensive media coverage of Combs' abusive treatment of women, defendants Bad Boy Records and Combs Enterprise had knowledge and were put on notice of the sexual abuse allegations made against him. That I agree with as well. All right, factual allegations is what I want. Plaintiff grew up in New York City and was raised by a single mom. In 1987, plaintiff began attending Syracuse as she was inspired to attend after hearing stories of her late father, who had attended the university and died the same year she was born. Wow. Okay, she majored in psychology. She was a hardworking student, who balanced her studies while also working as a server at Wells restaurant. Okay, now it's starting to make sense. To pay for her education. Plaintiff was looking, well, I mean, I just have a question, Miss Joy. When were you working at Wells? Was it when you were not at school in Syracuse? Because there's no way you were going to school at Syracuse and working at Wells like during the school year. You had to be working at Wells, I'm assuming, on break, right? Because you cannot go back and forth from upstate New York to Harlem every day. So I don't know. Anyway, Plaintiff was looking to make a foothold in the music industry and had worked as a receptionist at Apple One, a renowned talent agency, and as a location scout for Gary Brewer, an industry cameraman. Okay, so she was interested in being in the music industry, so that's good to know. Plaintiff also collaborated with Chuck Stone, a film director, on music videos for Grammy Award winning artist A Tribe Called Quest. Okay, cool. So I don't know how to pronounce that. Plaintiff met Sean Combs and learned of his reputation for abusing women. On repeated occasions, Combs pursued Plaintiff for a romantic or sexual relationship. However, Plaintiff had heard that Combs had a history of treating women badly and rejected Combs' advances each time. So she knew already before she even went on a date with him what he was about. In fact, yeah, here we go. Sister Soldier, a rapper from the Bronx, pointedly asked Plaintiff why she and Combs had been featured together in the music video for Straight from the Soul by Finesse and Sinqueeze. Okay, y'all, go back and watch the documentary. Go back and watch it so we can understand the timeline for Joy. In that documentary, she says she went to Andre Harrell's house to go to a party. And then she stayed. She was helped cleaning up mud. She stayed because she needed a ride. He told her, hey, the person that's supposed to be in the music video tomorrow, she canceled. So I need somebody to do it. Can you do it? She was like, oh, I don't do music videos. But she said she needed a ride back to Manhattan, so she agreed. And that's how she got into the music video. Here, we're learning that she knew about how he treated women, had a history of treating women badly, and rejected his advances every time. Sister Soldier, who I absolutely love, and I believe 100%, asked her why she was in the music video. So the timelines are not timelining. It doesn't make sense. I'm not saying that this did not happen. I'm just trying to understand the timeline. Okay? Plaintiff understood that Sister Soldier was warning her to stay away from Combs, given his infamous reputation. Because I guess in the documentary, it makes it seem like everything happened like in the time span of like 24 hours. Here, this is like over time. Like he's been pursuing her for a romantic relationship over time. She's been warned over time. Here, a Sister Soldier asked her why she and Combs have been featured together in the music video for Straight from the Soul by Finesse and Sinqueeze, which is what we see in the documentary. So she had already done it. Okay. Plaintiff reluctantly agreed to go on a date with Combs. All right, so timeline here. Sister Soldier asked her why she was already featured in that video with him. She's like, look, you already know he has a history of treating women bad. Why would you do that? Why would you put yourself in that position? Okay, cool. And then she reluctantly agrees to go on a date with him. So that seems like it's just a different story than what's in the show. Finally, January 3rd. All right, hold on. I'm about to look them up. I want to know when was Straight from the Soul by Finesse and Sinqueek. When was Straight the soul by finesse and sin. I don't know. It just says 1990 by Uptown Records. Yeah, it doesn't give me an exact date. Oh no, here. Oh no, that's not it. I don't know. Either way, um, either way, the stories are different and the timelines are different. Either way. So anyway, okay. Plaintiff reluctantly agreed to go on a date with Mr. Combs, who sexually assaulted her. All right, finally, on January 3rd, 1991. Okay, so it does say that Straight from the Soul was shot in 1990. Okay, so we have a little bit of a timeline here. 1990, she was in this video. 1991, right here, number 40, she decided she was going to go on a date with him. So it didn't happen sequentially as they're trying to portray it in that documentary. That's not how it occurred, according to her complaint. Again, weary of being alone with Combs, plaintiff chose Wells Restaurant, okay, which was a familiar environment as she worked there as a server and knew the employees. At Wells, plaintiff began to feel more comfortable as her and Combs engaged in conversation over food and drink. Later in the evening, plaintiff had to utilize the restroom and left her drink unattended. Combs indicated he did not want the date to end and asked plaintiff to join him in doing some errands he had around the city. While driving with Combs in his car, Combs produced a blunt and asked plaintiff to take a hit. Plaintiff politely declined, but Combs was insistent that plaintiff should roll with him and promised to have her home at a decent time so she could study. Feeling pressured, plaintiff reluctantly took a hit of the blunt. From that point on, plaintiff's memory is incomplete. Plaintiff recalls Combs bringing her to a music studio, and when she attempted to exit the car, her legs felt rubbery and she was unable to stand. Plaintiff next recalls being outside of a residence where it seemed Combs was living, except he rang the doorbell. Is this where we get to Andre Harrell's house? A man who was an acquaintance of both plaintiff and Combs, who answered the door. Plaintiff recalls that being odd, as she believed, perhaps mistakenly, that it was Combs' home. While in the home, Combs sexually assaulted plaintiff. Plaintiff recalls feeling humiliated and hurt, yet she could not escape the assault because she had been drugged. Plaintiff lacked the physical ability or mental capacity to fend Combs off. The next day, plaintiff's vaginal area hurt in a way that she had never experienced from any prior consensual sexual encounter. Feeling confusion, pain, embarrassment, and shame, plaintiff did not go to the hospital or report the assault to the police and sought refuge in her apartment, avoiding any outside contact. The next day, plaintiff broke down and tearfully recalled Combs' sexual assault to her best friend. Huh? Shortly thereafter, Devontae Swing, a member of R&B group Jodeci, told plaintiff that Combs had filmed himself sexually assaulting plaintiff and had shown the video to Swing and others while working in the studio. Plaintiff asked Swing who had seen the video, and he replied, "Everyone." All right, I'm about to pause. Plaintiff was mortified as she learned that Combs had filmed the assault and knew it would haunt her for the rest of her life. Swing told plaintiff that he wanted to speak up against Combs, but he was fearful that the band would lose their record deal. Jodeci was in the midst of recording their studio album Forever Lady, for which Combs was doing A&R. Okay. Um hmm. Because in the documentary, I'm gonna go watch it over. before I continue, because in the documentary it opposes number 58, right? She does not. She never says she remembered anything happening. She never says that she her vaginal area hurt. All things that I believe in, all things that would make sense, right, after a rape. And I said that in my other video because I was confused. Like, you wore the same clothes that you went to the party in and you got raped, but like your clothes were intact? Or like you didn't feel any like sexual, like you didn't feel like you had sex the night before, like I was questioning all these things in my first video, and I'm actually going to link this video back to that because I was very confused when I did the video, and I'm confused now as well. Feeling pain and embarrassment and shame, plaintiff did not go to the hospital or report the assault and sought refuge in her apartment, avoiding any outside contact. The next day, plaintiff broke down and tearfully recalled Combs' sexual assault to her friend. That is a pivotal thing. And that is something I would think she would have talked about in the documentary, but she did not say that. She just said a friend contacted her and let her know that he was circulating this video around and showing it to people. But she never said that her vaginal area hurt. She never said she sought refuge in her apartment and avoided outside contact. And she never said that she called a friend. So I'm going to stop it here. And I'm going to try to watch it again before I continue. All right, make sure you guys like and subscribe. And yeah, we're trying to reach our goal of monetization. All right, talk to you soon.